Welcome to Going Through Health with Gordy and Zed.
Where wellness gets a fun twist. I'm Gordy Jenkins, a natural foods entrepreneur, and with me is Dr. Zed DeBout, our resident trained Stanford MD. We are former college swim teammates turned best friends, and now your guide to this crazy world of health trends and fitness hacks with a focus on getting the science right. Get ready for a wild ride. This is Going Through Health with Gordy and Zed. Sorry. Today, Dr. Zed and I are talking mouth tape. Tape that goes over your mouth, forcing you to breathe out of your nose. Is it silly and effective, or is it goofy and helpful? Find out. Then it's What the Duck. As we look at the wild movement known as Breatharianism, people who say they breathe air instead of eat food. Before we wrap up, as always, with the fast fire questions. But before we shut our mouths, let's see what Dr. Zed learned while going through health this week.
Well, first, I have a little dentist addendum to update. I went back after my little snafu and rumble with the dentist, but this was just a very friendly hygienist. But went in and she noticed there's quite some staining, and so she was rattling off all the things. She's like, "Do you drink like a bunch of coffee? Do you drink a bunch of tea? Do you drink a bunch of squid ink?" And I was like, no, yes. But no, I was like, no. So we were both very puzzled. But then I was like, could it be blueberries? Because I've been eating a ton of blueberries in my smoothies, and I'd actually just gotten these very dark, like huckleberries, which were even, I don't know, I was just in my mind, I was like, ooh, I bet the huckleberries are making a difference. And she was like, oh yeah, that could totally be it. It's probably the blueberries. So no, that's something interesting.
That guy always talks about his huckleberries. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like the coolest guy ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so learned that blueberries can stain your teeth.
Yeah, I've been drinking so much tea recently and stuff, and I've been drinking hibiscus tea. It's super red. It's a really deep, beautiful red, but I'm sure my teeth are just getting stained.
Yeah, a nice reddish hue.
Yeah, just a perfect color that you like.
Or vampire's worst nightmare, just the red stain.
Yeah, exactly.
From all the hibiscus tea.
That's right. Yeah, hibiscus tea.
Sure, Dracula. Yeah. All right. But no, so the other thing I learned this week, so this is from an article in the Guardian by Tom Perkins very recently, Friday, November the 22nd. But he's basically covering these results of this study from California limiting forever chemicals in products, this Proposition 65. So basically, new research indicates that levels in California residents' blood for these 37 chemicals analyzed, these levels declined after the chemicals were designated under Proposition 65. A little bit of background: Proposition 65 was actually originally implemented in 1986, and it, of all things, just nuts, requires companies selling products in California to warn consumers if the goods contain harmful chemicals causing cancer, birth defects, or reproductive harm. So big ask, California. But
you see that? So, do you know that is like? But that thing is like now a meme in California. Like any place you go to, anything you do in California has a warning on it. It says, just like as a CYA, as a cover your ass, as a way of saying like this place or this product may have chemicals known to cause cancer to the state of California or in the state of California. And so like everything says it.
Just in case.
It's just like everywhere you go, on every hotel wall. So there's maybe an unintended consequence.
Stay on your toes.
Yeah.
But good news is that they saw a decrease in levels of most of these chemicals, including highly toxic PFAS, so the ones we've talked about before, flame retardants, diesel chemicals, phthalates, and bisphenol, so that BPA, bisphenol A. And some specific numbers here: median levels of several of the different types of PFAS decreased significantly, with PFOS dropping by 77% and PFOA levels falling by 62%. They also found that median bisphenol A, so BPA concentrations, decreased by 15% after the designation. I guess, it should be pretty intuitive. If you can't use these chemicals, they should fall. But it's kind of a nice reminder that, yes, with regulation, if you aren't putting these chemicals in, these chemicals don't have to be everywhere. And if we're not putting them in everything, we won't be exposed and the levels will go down. So kind of a no-brainer, but yeah.
No, but it's good at reaffirming, because in some ways you'd be like, oh, maybe it doesn't even, it helps with that learned helplessness of like, it shows that there is demonstrative effects to the policy. Whereas you would worry that like, oh, it doesn't even matter because there's so many downstream
Exactly.
effects that it's just like, well, I'm going to get it either way, like through the process. But it's cool that you
Totally.
can actually, theoretically prevent it or prevent the buildup of huge amounts.
And there are actually some good unintended consequences, or maybe they intended them, but study found evidence that the benefits of the law weren't just confined to California. So levels of toxic chemicals in people's bodies decreased across the US in the years following Prop 65 designation. And this, of course, kind of trace back or suggest that companies reformulated some of these products to avoid these compounds because it's not really worth their while to have two separate manufacturing lines, one for California, one for the rest of the US, et cetera.
Sure. Oh, super interesting.
But basically, I mean, we talked a little bit about it, but really highlights the efficacy and as well as the need for policies addressing these groups of chemicals. One of the other little scary bits was the study found evidence of companies replacing one toxic chemical with another similar one that wasn't covered under Prop 65. So that's cool.
Good job, guys.
Don't know what we expected. But really, the whole point here is that the findings suggest stringent regulations can be effective in controlling toxic chemicals in consumer goods, which kind of, I would think, would be a good thing.
Yeah, I think so too. Cool. Thank you
for sharing speaking that. Of toxic substances in consumer goods, I had done some research on toxins in adhesives, which kind of brings us to our subjective today.
That's right. Glue. No, our subjective. Our subject today is mouth tape. Mouth tape, also known as sleep tape. Today, we're taking the GTH time machine back to the 1830s when artist, explorer, and self-appointed anthropologist George Catlin, a real Renaissance man, traded his paintbrushes for paddles to immerse himself in the world of Native American tribes.
So you think Native Americans didn't have paintbrushes?
I don't know if he literally traded them. Metaphorically traded them. He brought the paintbrushes with him. A lot of paintings of the tribes. But I was inspired, and I first heard about this story reading the book Breath, The New Science of a Lost Art, a 2020 popular science book by science journalist James Nestor. And I know you've read that. We've talked about how cool and interesting that book is, and we want to do a response episode or an entire episode about breathing because there's so much fascinating information.
The boys read a book.
Yeah. Once I finish it, I'll be sure to tell you. So among the tribes George Catlin lived with was the Mandan tribe of the Great Plains, a people Catlin described with a mix of admiration and envy. He noted their stature, tall, lean, and impeccably straight-backed, as well as their nearly perfect teeth. He wrote that their teeth were like the keys of a piano. Luminous skin, you're going to hear a lot of his voice. Luminous skin, and these people were overall showed strong vitality. If wellness influencers existed back then, the Mandan peoples would be absolutely running the show.
Yeah, there would have been Custer's last gram, and then Manville taken over.
That's right, Custergram. So here's a quote from George Catlin's book that came out in the 1860s after all of this. The book was called The Breath of Life. I have devoted the greater part of my life in visiting and recording the looks of the various native races of North and South America, and during those researches, observing the healthy condition and physical perfection of those people in their primitive state, as contrasted with the deplorable mortality, the numerous diseases and deformities in civilized communities. I have been led to search for and able, I believe, to discover the main cause leading to such different results.
Oh, that's a banger of a George Catlin. I just want to tell you.
Thank you. Yep. Catlin, who spent 6 years living among 50 different Native American tribes, was captivated not just by their physical attributes, but by the cultural practices that supported them. Chief among these was an emphasis on how one breathed. He wrote in his book, The Breath of Life, "The two great secrets of human life, to breathe and to sleep in a proper manner."
Hey, no arguments here.
Yeah, sounds pretty straightforward. And this was no exaggeration. For most, if not all of these tribes, breathing wasn't just an unconscious act. It was a deliberate and essential aspect of life, one passed down through the generations. And Catlin described how mothers would even gently pinch their babies' mouths closed as they slept, like ensuring that they breathe nasally only from their nose.
Huh. It's kind of, yeah. Me walking down the airplane aisle, just like just pinching people's baby's mouth shut while they're sleeping. Allow me.
Yeah,
You'll
it's
thank
good.
me later.
Strangers. People love when strangers pinch
Just
their baby's
pinch
nose closed. If
Oh,
they're
he's so
sleeping or
cute.
not. Yeah, oh, he's so cute. He's so much cuter if I just, there we go. Honk, honk. But yeah, and this wasn't a one-time intervention. You know, it didn't end in childhood. It was part of a broader cultural belief that nasal breathing was essential for physical health, emotional steadiness, and spiritual connection. And like he wrote that they wouldn't even smile with their mouth open, afraid that they would let in the noxious air.
Huh. So just like a closed-lipped kind of smile.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe he just like was kind of lame, and they just like,
Yeah.
nah, man, like
No.
that's not it. Callan spent some time living across what is now the northern Great Plains of the United States with peoples of the Sioux Nation. Known for their nomadic lifestyle, the Sioux followed buffalo herds, lived in teepees, and practiced rich spiritual traditions. Strength, endurance, and adaptability were not just desirable traits, but necessary ones. So it's like little wonder why they paid such close attention to something as fundamental as breathing, because it was literally the foundation of their survival. This is a nutty story. Callan once found himself playing referee. He found himself in this really awkward tussle or this tiff, this quarrel between a Sioux man and a white worker. And naturally, the two men decided that the best way to settle things was to meet out on the prairie completely naked and resolve the differences with knives.
Mm-hmm. As you do.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. The guy with the $6,000 suit.
Come on.
Fight. Yeah.
Well, as you might imagine, things escalated quickly. Just moments before this steamy battle was about to commence, Callan and a few others intervened. Break it up, boys. Oh, hey, I didn't realize it was so cold outside.
Really snarky.
Yeah. Oh, this one's going in my journal.
Yeah.
So Callan managed not only to stop the fight, but to talk the men into shaking hands and calling it a day. And later, Callan, ever the curious observer, he asked the Sioux man privately if he had been at least a little bit intimidated by his opponent, who was bigger, stronger, and presumably just as naked as the Sioux warrior. And the Sioux replied promptly, "No, not in the least. I never fear harm from a man who cannot shut his mouth, no matter how large or strong he may be." Ooh.
Wow.
Ooh. 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 Maybe stop talking so much, Callan. Catch the hint. No, but so seriously, this was permeated their culture, and mouth breathers were weak and disgusting. So Catlin described the Native Americans as having what he called perfect physiques, attributing this in part to their disciplined approach to health and wellness. In his writings, he contrasted their robust health to the stooped, sickly forms of many Europeans of his era. All right.
Absolutely devastating. Europeans catching strays. Do you ever imagine if someone referred to you as stooped and sickly?
It's well, Catlin said that? Catlin?
Yeah,
actually, Catlin was plagued by health issues early
on. Oh, really?
In his 30s. Yeah, he started doing nose breathing and fixed a ton of his stuff. That's why he became such a
believer.
Beat you over the head about it,
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I was gonna say, let me see a picture of Catlin.
Yeah, there probably is some elements of self-hatred in his words. I'm guessing he was a stooping, sickly form of a man at one point. But he was also really fascinated by the fact that the Sioux were very tall, and a lot of tribes he lived with were well over 6 feet, and broad shoulders, looked completely healthy, made the Europeans look like a bunch of kids with pernicious anemia. Beyond childhood habits, these tribes carried their nasal breathing discipline into adulthood. Warriors preparing for long hunts or battle would focus on controlled, deep nasal breathing, which they believed steadied their mind and increased their endurance. Hunters also valued the stealth nasal breathing because it's quiet and measured. You're I'm about to shoot it now. Oh, shoot, it got away. But yeah, you got to keep that mouth shut. So these practices weren't just about pragmatism. Breathing held a spiritual significance as well. Catlin observed that controlled nasal breathing was often paired with meditation-like rituals, particularly during spiritual ceremonies or moments of reflection. The breath was seen as a sacred bridge between the body and the spirit, a life force that demanded respect and attention.
I wonder if they ever made a mouth breathing exception, like if they're all sitting around in an enclosed space like a TP, and like someone has a really bad fart or something. Like, which do you think is worse? Like, yeah.
No, I think that's when they whip out the butt tape.
Never again.
Never again. They're like, oh, never again.
They pinch their butthole.
Yeah, you don't want to know what they pinch. What Catlin observed has since been validated by modern science. Nasal breathing has been shown to improve oxygen exchange, boost nitric oxide production, which supports immune function and circulation, and reduce stress by activating the parasympathetic nervous system. The Mandan peoples didn't need peer-reviewed studies to prove this. They saw the results in their robust health, resilience, and long lives. Catlin himself, like I said, he became a true believer. He was lamenting that his fellow Europeans were the most disgusting people in the world. And he wrote this all with a mix of frustration and sarcasm that I'm almost speaking about now. So it's not really far from him. He was kind of a snarky, maybe like a little Joseph Pilates, like, I know what's better for you kind of guy,
Uh-huh.
And he was set out to end this mouth breathing epidemic.
I can just see his little burn book. His lordship, the Duke of Halitosis, looks so sophisticated with his mouth adrape like a wizard sleeve.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, good. You got the wizard mention in. That hit your quota for the day.
We'll see.
But Catlin's observations, preserved in his book, The Breath of Life, remains a fascinating testament to indigenous wisdom. And as we tape our mouths shut in hopes of better sleep or workout performance, maybe we can remember the Mandan and the Sioux among the other dozens of tribes who mastered this art long before it became a wellness trend. And I think this is really cool. And this kind of sums it up. George Catlin's final words in The Breath of Life sum it up perfectly. If I were to endeavor to bequeath to posterity the most important motto which human language can convey, it should be in 3 words. Shut your mouth. In the social transactions of life, this might have its inconveniences, but in all of the departments of health and of longevity, it is invaluable.
Kind of got to think he wasn't talking specifically to podcasters then, but yeah, I think in general, good advice.
Yeah, he felt really high and mighty writing all this down. But that is our subjective, Zed. Why don't you hit us with the objective? Objectify us, Captain.
Well, fascinating story, and that takes us to the modern day trend, fad, however you want to think about it. But basically, kind of intuitive. Mouth taping is this practice where you essentially tape your mouth shut, just like Catlin would have wanted, either before sleep or really any activity to promote nasal breathing. A couple potential benefits, and again, this isn't comprehensive. I mean, there's all kinds of sidetracks you can go down in terms of workout performance and sleep apnea and recovery and all these things, but we're going to try and just distill it down and keep it basically to a couple offshoots here.
For sure.
But a couple potential benefits of nasal breathing. Nasal breathing has been shown to enhance oxygen absorption in the lungs due to the production of nitric oxide in the nasal cavity. So you mentioned that before. So nitric oxide is a potent vasodilator, meaning it really helps relax and widen those blood vessels in your kind of upper respiratory system. Well, any system really, but this property.
I think it's like, I think Viagra works by releasing nitric oxide, and I was reading in that context that nose breathing increases your nitric oxide production 6-fold or something like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's pretty wild. Yeah, you just telling your partner, I'll be right back. I just need to freshen up, and then coming out with your mouth taped.
Ready to go.
But yeah, so it's a vasodilator. It's essential in regulating blood flow and blood pressure within the pulmonary circulation and other circulation as well, which Gordy mentioned. But by promoting this vasodilation, nitric oxide enhances blood flow to the alveoli, so those tiny little air sacs in the lungs where the gas exchange occurs. And this increased blood flow really facilitates this more efficient oxygen uptake and carbon dioxide removal. So the two big important parts of breathing.
Nice.
Nasal breathing also has been shown to help maintain moisture in the airways, reducing the risk of dry mouth as well as associated conditions like bad breath and tooth decay. So kind of a episode for the dentists again. But there's this mucosal lining of your upper airways, and I know, like if you pick your nose, you're familiar with the mucus there and kind of becoming boogers to get a little into the scientific weeds. But of course, that mucus isn't confined to your nostrils. It lines upper airway passages and including your nasal passages. And that mucus layer really relies on moisture to function effectively. And those upper airways as well have a ton of these tiny little hair-like structures called cilia, and they work alongside with the mucus to basically trap and clear all these inhaled particles and germs and debris. And again, moisture is critical for that optimal ciliary function and mucus consistency, and those together contribute to reducing the risk of infections. Mouth breathing can also lead to dry mouth, so kind of intuitive, and that can increase the risk of dental issues such as cavities and gum disease. So if you can think if you're breathing in and out a bunch of air, you're kind of giving them a favorable environment to thrive.
Right.
So last thing with moist airways here is that they ensure that the air inhaled is adequately humidified before reaching the lower respiratory tract. And this is particularly important if you're in a dry or cold environment, like areas of California in the winter, or I'm trying to think of one other dry area, the Sahara, where humidification can really enhance that respiratory comfort and prevent irritation.
Yeah, I've totally noticed my nose not be able to breathe as well as it got drier and colder here, even just like kind of irritating my mucus. I have to be a little more mindful about humidifying.
It's real. It's real.
I didn't think I'd have to get that real with you, but I got to be more mindful about humidifying. Just a personal struggle I'm going through. It's a hard knock life, baby. Somehow I manage.
Well, all right. So the other big thing, so in addition to just some of the benefits of nasal breathing from nitric oxide to moisture content is mouth taping and sleep quality. So mouth taping has been shown to potentially improve sleep quality in certain cases by reducing instances of snoring and obstructive sleep apnea. And these are conditions that are often exacerbated by mouth breathing. And just to give a little bit of background here. When we breathe through our nose, your tongue and you can experiment with this yourself lying in bed at night, your tongue sort of somewhat naturally does rest or should rest against the roof of your mouth, which helps to maintain the kind of patency or the openness of your oropharynx so that you basically your throat hole in a way. But however, during mouth breathing, the tongue sort of wow, that was insanely loud. All right, oropharynx it is.
Continue about your mouth hole or your throat hole.
All right, during mouth breathing, you'll find that your tongue sort of drops from the roof of your mouth, and that can kind of falls back into your oropharynx, and that can kind of contribute to the narrowing or even obstruction of the upper airway. And then breathing through the mouth can also create negative pressure in the upper airway. Basically, you're sucking in a lot of wind, and that creates negative pressure, and that can pull the soft tissues like your soft palate and your uvula into the airway. And that also, of course, leads to partial or complete obstruction. This effect is part of one of the causes of sleep apnea, and it can be especially pronounced during sleep when your muscle tone decreases. And you can actually try this out yourself, even if you're not asleep. If you kind of purse your lips and really suck in air really hard, you can kind of feel your throat sort of close or narrow, which is
like
kind of
blowing through your nose, like if you purse your lips and then breathe into your nose.
Or if you breathe, if you kind of suck in air through your mouth. There you go. Yeah. And we'll put this on socials just to make it clear.
No, don't, dude. I look stupid. I look so stupid. What am I supposed to do? You didn't tell me what to do once I had the air in me.
Just breathe in really fast and hard. There you go. Can you feel your throat kind of close a little bit?
Yes, that was me trying to say yes. You're asking a lot of me. You're giving me the old dentist rigmarole.
All right, and there we have it. But yeah, so if that sounds fun to you, you should try it on your own. But basically, there's a number of studies that suggest that mouth taping can help improve some of these symptoms, and even ranging from sleep apnea to insomnia, and lead to more restful, uninterrupted sleep, which wouldn't that be nice?
That would be nice. We like that. I've been using it now, and I want to tell you a little bit about my experiences. I know you've been using it for a while, so we'll share our experiences and things like that. But first, let's just hear from our sponsors today. Introducing Nose Talk, the revolutionary device that turns your nose into a fully functional voice-enabled mouth. Using patented nasal vocal technology, Nose Talk lets you chat, sing, or podcast hands-free while your actual mouth stays perfectly taped shut. I'm actually using it right now. Never let nasal breathing get in the way of a good conversation ever again. And if you order today, it will come with preloaded accents and voice changers for added fun. Australian accent not included. And we are also sponsored today by Lullakazoo. Lullakazoo, the mouth tape musical experience. Can't stand the silence of a taped up mouth? Meet Lullakazoo, the world's first kazoo attachment for mouth tape. As you exhale through your nose, it transforms every breath into a soothing lullaby or jazzy tune. Choose from classic favorites like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or bold hits like Smoke on the Water. Finally, a bedtime concert everyone will enjoy. Lullakazoo. Get yours today at any local kazoo store. Welcome back, Hug a Kazoo Salesman if you know one. And be sure to subscribe, follow, rate us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. New episodes Monday morning at Going Through Health Point Podcast. I'll tell you, try to say .podcast. Just try to say like 3 times.
.podcast. Yeah,
that's good. I just have to say it like you. All right. So at Going Through Health .podcast on Instagram.
All right, Gordy, we are talking about my mouth tape. I think it's time to break down our impressions and share some asides as part of our assessment.
Oh yeah, when you bring me in like that, it really pumps me up. Gives you some good energy coming up. Because then you can't talk about mouth tape without mentioning it helps you not pee in the middle of the night. But first, let me share my experience with you. All right, Zed, my first time ever seeing mouth tape or lip tape or sleep tape or whatever was at your bachelor party. It was
crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah. Let's just say we got a lot of sleep that weekend. No, I was sharing a room with you, and I hadn't seen you in like 5 years, and this is what I'm greeted with. You sleeping next to me with your mouth taped up. I don't know. I thought it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Did you feel like you seemed like comfortable enough with it, but like behind your back, like we were all just ripping into you, you know?
It's one of those things where it's awful to look at, and it looks pretty insane. It's really hard not to look like an absolute freak. But the good thing is, if you're the one doing it, you're not really looking at yourself. And so you can just kind of hum along and be fine.
It's their problem. It's my problem. No, but it just seemed crazy to me. And like, I remember you even telling me about the benefits and stuff, and it just seemed crazy. I barely could breathe out of my nose at night. It feels like I'm congested like in the evening, I start getting congested. By the time I'm laying down, I feel like I can only breathe out of my mouth, which is just a crappy feeling. But so I've been trying to address that through allergies. Maybe that's part of the reason. So one night that I finally could breathe out of my nose, I was like, all right, I'm just going to try this out. I threw a little Band-Aid over my mouth. I thought like maybe I heard reading that book, Breath, that it's kind of a use it or lose it thing, that you can train and build the strength to your sinuses. And like if you deny your nose regular use, it will atrophy. They did this study on people who had laryngectomies. Because somewhere in that process, they divert your breathing through your throat and
right.
Or windpipe, and more different medical term. And like the people's noses, after not breathing through noses for a while, were completely messed up. Like they had to really like work to like PT that basically and get themselves back so they could breathe out of their nose. So I was like, hey, why not? Let me just see if I can strengthen this. Put it on. I had a few panicky moments. So whenever I can't breathe out of my nose, I find it really tough. Are you always able to breathe clearly through your nose?
I think I'm trying to remember back because I've been doing it for so long, but I think in the very beginning, there was a couple little my nose feels a little occluded, and just kind of, you're trying to not take too deep of breaths and just try to relax. But no, I think from pretty early on, I just didn't have any issues. My nose was always patent.
Well, good for you, Peyton Manning over there. I have, I've had my turbinates reduced. So I've actually had a turbinate reduction because it's been so hard for me. I have a slight deviated septum that my ENT said he could operate on, but I just don't really feel like doing it. So I'm giving this a go, and it's working so far. That's the crazy thing. It is working. It's my number one recovery on my Whoop right now. It's telling me that behavior, taping my lips, gives me the best chance at a good recovery out of all of my other behaviors or recovery rituals or supplements or anything like that. So I thought that was really fascinating.
No, that's pretty incredible. It's so nice to be able to have that data and see the effect. But because I remember when I brought it up to you, you were very concerned that you just wouldn't be able to breathe through your nose. So
yeah, and that's exactly the thing. Like, but there are moments that are hard for me, like because I don't want to have to untape it and tape it up. So in the middle of the night, like I get up and go to the bathroom or I do something, and it's a little stuffed up. I'm just gonna have to. I really have to concentrate, and it's kind of meditative in that way. You have to really focus on your breathing. So even if I only have like one nostril open, I'm like, here we go, baby. You're providing for this 220-pound beast right now. Let's go, nostril.
You're in.
We make it. I'm like, you're in, buddy. The left one gave up 2 hours ago. It's all up to you.
Come on, Peyton Manning.
Come on, Peyton Manning. Yeah, exactly. Eli's done.
No, that's awesome to hear.
The dry mouth thing is huge too. I'm prone to like getting ulcers, like canker sores, like when I bite my mouth or something. You know what I mean? Not cold sores, but like like biting. And this really helped me just keeping my mouth shut throughout the night, keeping the moisture, not having dry mouth is awesome.
Totally.
But one of the coolest things, Zed, which I didn't realize, though, is how much I just don't wake up as much. I wake up like once a night. I used to wake up probably like 4 times a night and go pee. Like I'm very hydrated. I thought it was just me being hydrated. But I'm still just as hydrated, and now I'm waking up once a night, which is a huge difference. And so I teased this at the top of the segment, that nasal breathing plays a surprising role in regulating the body's fluid balance. Particularly, it does this through its influence on vasopressin, a hormone that reduces urine production. So when you breathe through your nose, it encourages deeper, more efficient diaphragmatic breathing, which promotes relaxation and triggers parasympathetic nervous system responses. This state supports the pituitary gland's release of vasopressin during sleep. So it helps concentrate urine and prevents you from having to go to the bathroom all the time in the middle of the night. So I thought that was really cool. I was like, holy crap, I'm sleeping so much better now.
Yeah. And even just not having those disturbances of having to get up and go to the bathroom all the time are huge just for prolonged sleep quality.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things that you can kind of assess yourself at home, where you shouldn't be having to, unless you're drinking a gallon of water right as you lay down to go to sleep, you really shouldn't be having to get up multiple times throughout the night to go pee. And so if you are, there could be something going on in terms of potential like sleep apnea issues. I mean, obviously you'd want to talk to your doctor, but sleep apnea is famous for those frequent wake cycles, and then you're not having that proper vasopressin signaling, and you're having to get up a lot to pee, which of course exacerbates the issue because it totally rouses you from sleep and issues falling back asleep. But yeah, that's one of those things to keep an eye out for.
Totally is what happens with me. And like I remember 10 years ago, I was like, why am I going pee in the middle of the night so much? It's so frustrating. It must be hydration. And then I talked to my doctor, and I think they tested me for something like diabetes or something. And no, you're good. You're perfectly healthy. There's nothing else it could be. Whatever.
Right.
Live your life. But yeah, no, this has totally fixed it. So it's fascinating. I'm really stoked about that because nocturia, the need to urinate at night, hasn't been ideal for sleeping. It disrupts you. And so saying goodbye to mouth breathing and that disruption of the hormonal balance has been a key for me to stay asleep. And I think that I have a lot of thanks that are owed to mouth tape.
Gratitude for tape.
A lot of gratitude.
No, I think that's a very, I shouldn't say like very common, but you see anecdotally a lot of people have similar experiences where they're like, wow, I actually, a couple of years ago, I had my labs done and they're like, wow, you're pretty dehydrated. And I was like, how could that possibly be? I drink so much water and electrolytes, right. But I had been getting up to like pee similar to you four times a night, probably around 3 to 4. And just been mind boggled. And I tried to stop drinking water at like 5 PM and all that stuff. But it really was this combination of sleep apnea and impinge sort of vasopressin signaling.
It really, I mean, it's cool. I mean, there's so much of it. So, I'll give you my time now. But what are some things that you found interesting or compelling?
All right. So one thing I'm particularly selfishly interested in is
wizards and wizardry.
It's very selfish, specifically Ravenclaws. But no, so I've struggled with mild obstructive sleep apnea for a long time. So we'll eventually do an episode on sleep apnea. But really, there's some interesting studies out there, and this specific one is called The Impact of Mouth Taping in Mouth Breathers with Mild Obstructive Sleep Apnea, a preliminary study.
Mouth breathers still sounds pejorative, doesn't it?
It does, and I think it is. I don't think a lot of people are complimenting, oh, he's a mouth breather.
Oh, I like that.
But no, so this was by Lee et al., 2022, but a little bit of background. Many obstructive sleep apnea patients are mouth breathers, which we discussed earlier, but it can worsen obstructive sleep apnea severity and affect compliance with devices like these nasal positive airway pressure, like the CPAP treatment. And this study specifically examined the impact of mouth taping on people that had mild obstructive sleep apnea and were primarily mouth breathers. So they took these mouth breathers, I wonder what that, hey, we're looking for mouth breathers. I've seen some stooped and sickly mouth breathers.
They just go up to you and ask you, they're like, hey,
right.
You're perfect.
Yeah, you look like an idiot.
You're perfect.
But no, so they found these mouth breathers with mild obstructive sleep apnea who tolerated mouth sealing, so mouth taping, and enrolled them. And participants underwent this home sleep test for a baseline to see how they were sleeping. And then 1 week later, they did another sleep test, but this time with taped mouths. And responders, patients who responded to the taping, were defined as patients with at least a 50% reduction in baseline snoring index with the mouth taping. But they also, because we'll get into like the different ways to tape your mouth, but this study used tape placed vertically along the philtrum. So basically underneath your nose, vertically stripped down to cover your mouth. So not hostage style, like it's not taped horizontally across your whole mouth. Anyways,
okay. All right,
that'll be important later. But no, so these 20 total patients were included, and 13, so 65%, showed a good result to the mouth tape per the study. The median apnea and hypopnea index significantly decreased from 8.3 events per hour to 4.7 events per hour, with most of the significant reduction coming in the supine position, so laying on your back. And then
they found cut in half. That's cool.
Which is wild. And then the median snoring index also improved by 47%. Changes in the snoring index were strongly associated with the greater baseline snoring index. So the worse your snoring was to begin with, the better or the more you benefited from this mouth taping.
Oh, cool.
At least for the snoring index. Yeah. And so, they go on to conclude that mouth taping during sleep improved snoring and obstructive sleep apnea severity in mouth breathers with mild obstructive sleep apnea, reducing these different metrics. The people that benefited the most were the ones that had it worse to begin with. And basically saying that mouth taping could serve as an alternative treatment for patients with mild sleep apnea before considering CPAP or surgical intervention.
That's really cool. All right. I mean, that seems like a very easy thing to do. And like, I was trying to think about how to even sell people on it. I feel like you could just start, put it on during the day a little bit, or even start, get comfortable with it. Because I think the idea of it's a little freaky sometimes.
Definitely. It's a little bizarre, but yeah, we'll, in the big three bangers, we'll get a little bit more actionable and concrete with it.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of amazing that you could, the time and expense that go into both CPAP and surgical intervention are kind of wild. So if you're able to see benefits from something as simple as taping your mouth at night, definitely worth a try. But all right, so that's the first study. And then the second study that I thought was pretty interesting was the study covering mouth puffing phenomena of patients with obstructive sleep apnea and mouth
puffing.
So
I know what this is because it's happened to me, but please continue.
Yeah, it's exactly almost what you would think. So this was in this journal Sleep Breath. It would have been Catlin's favorite journal
for sure
from 2022. But no, so the purpose of the study, they were aiming to create this device to monitor mouth puffing events in patients with obstructive sleep apnea who were mouth taped, but their methods were a little bit different. They used this whole mouth tape sort of horizontal style where you're basically putting this piece of tape horizontally across the entire length of the mouth rather than just this vertical strip. But they found that patients who exhibited this mouth puffing phenomena when sleeping with their mouths taped were also the ones that had significantly higher scores of their obstructive sleep apnea indices. So intermittent mouth puffing was significantly different from non-mouth puffing in terms of this apnea hypopnea index, as well as oxygen desaturation index and time of oxygen saturation under 90%. So basically, all that to say that these mouth puffers, there were these mouth puffers and non-mouth puffers when their mouth were taped, and the mouth puffers had worse sleep apnea. So whatever was happening basically wouldn't allow them to kind of exhale through their nose, and so they would puff out their cheeks because their mouth were taped and there's nowhere for the air to go.
I've had that puffing. It's when you like aren't thinking and your body automatically just mindlessly blows out through your mouth, but you're taped up, so your cheeks just go like
exactly.
a puffer fish. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
The mouth puffers of the sea. But yeah. But no, so they went on to suggest that this sort of method, this mouth puffing measuring method, could be used to detect and categorize different obstructive sleep apnea patient profiles and help clinicians evaluate their obstructive sleep apnea. So yeah, kind of a bizarre, weird sort of thing, but a pretty like simple metric in terms of my mouth puffs more, I have worse sleep apnea.
Yeah, it makes sense. Something's not working as well as it should be working.
Is my mouth supposed to be puffing? Yeah.
All right, Zed, but here is the kicker. I've been using it for exercise too. I've been doing zone 2. We got to do a zone 2 episode, but I've been running around the neighborhood, freaking out the neighborhood. The giant scary man with the mouth tape parading around. That's me. Because I was thinking of this earlier. Don't you think being swimmers? I feel like swimming is the most anti-nose breathing sport there is, because you basically are just like gulping out of your mouth every once in a while because you're not trying to get water up your nose. Like basically you've kind of blocked your nose off so that you can do flip turns. You can get a quick breath. You're kind of just like open up. Like it really doesn't teach you to take a controlled, slow nose breath.
No, it's a giant mouth breather sport for sure. And then
it's no rhythm.
Yeah, and then all the chlorine and like the indoor aquatic environments too, you kind of get congestion and of negative feedback loop.
Well, so outside though, it felt great. I threw on some tape over my lips and I just went for a little light jog. Kept it in the zone 2, zone 3. I found that at the top of zone 3 is when I'm like feeling this kind of like oxygen thirst. It's like about 157 beats per minute was when I was kind of like, oh, I wish I could breathe out of my mouth. And zone 3 is when it's like, I wish I could exhale out of my mouth. You know what I mean? Because I was just breathing through my nose and exhaling through my nose. I found it super relaxing, and it wasn't as hard. I actually got into a little bit of a zone. It got easier as I went on. Yeah, I just feel like it's kind of relaxing, and it's self-governing your paces, because you can't go too fast or your body will just be like, you're gonna die, don't die.
Don't do it. That's I try to we'll get into this a little bit later, but I try to keep my only nose breathe through any type of exercise. And at first, especially at higher heart rates, it is really hard, but like slowly you'd be surprised at how you can almost start doing sprints and almost redlining in a way and really pushing your body and still get enough oxygen through your nose. So
yeah, yesterday I did an hour, like I did a 10K. So over like about 6.5 miles. And it just felt really good. Something I thought was very calming. I had to stop myself because my body will end up breaking down, but I love it. I could keep going. My cardiovascular system felt great. My airways felt great. I got to watch my knees and my feet. And I'm also freaking people out, Zed, because that's the biggest issue of why I probably can't keep doing this, is because you look like an absolute freak show, dude. Like I scared the crap out of some people.
What happened?
Well, I was like, all right, so I was running down I had this flesh-colored, it's my wife has boob tape. I don't know. My boob tape? I don't even know. Whatever. I put it on my mouth. I used it. All right, guilty. All right, sue me.
I thought it was mouth tape.
Sue me. So I put it on like a Charlie Chaplin mustache. Charlie Chaplin, that's the mustache you think of, right? That's the guy. And so I was running, but a car was pulling out. It was super foggy, so I looked like some Stephen King creature, just like emerging from the mist. But I was running and I couldn't like holler, and there's a car that was backing up and was intersecting the sidewalk, and so like I couldn't holler and be like, oh, I'm coming. So I had to just crane my neck down into his car because I'm a tall guy, and I have my mouth open. And I looked down and made eye contact with him, and I was just like, and I like stared at him, like I looked like some weird ostrich boy, like, and I just like ran off, like. It's just like, all right. He's just like, what the hell is this neighborhood? Like, get out of here.
him just like, honey, I think I just saw Charlie Chaplin wearing boob tape on his mouth.
But fleshy, I don't know. He's huge. Yeah, it's that's tough. And like, it's back to the Joseph Pilates problem when it's like, oh, that guy takes it really seriously. That's how I feel running around. I was like, wow, that guy takes his morning runs really serious. It just seems like those like yuppie, like, I just wish there was some way that I could tape my lips without it being like, what's that guy doing? Something cooler.
I'm going to propose 2 quick solutions. All right. One, what if we do like a type of tape that has a mouth graphic on it? So it just looks like a closed mouth or even like a big smile.
A big smile. That would be creepy.
Even worse.
Oh, I like that.
Other thing is, I guess, and this is going to sound like a stupid question, but are you not able to just keep your mouth closed? Does the tape really help you kind of just keep it automatic?
That's a great question. Before, like I had been doing some running. I think it's just nice. I think that it just is a nice reminder. It helps you just keep it lets you not think about it. It lets you get out of your head and just run. I feel like it's just kind of a nice little, it keeps you honest and it keeps lets your mind wander because it's you don't want to always just be thinking about every single breath you take, every move you make. I'll be watching you. You gotta figure out ways around that.
helps you run and helps other people run away from you.
Run away from me. They can sprint and they can sustain it. I can only run one steady pace at them. But Zed, here is the kicker of the kicker. While using mouth tape during runs might feel a little bit socially and physically awkward, as I mentioned, but it can be a game changer for your teeth, like your teeth, especially, Zed. Everyone's teeth. Endurance running is notoriously bad for oral health, largely because of mouth breathing. As you've mentioned earlier, studies have shown that runners who breathe through their mouths tend to dry out their oral cavity, mouth, reducing saliva production. And since saliva is your mouth's natural defense against bacteria and acidity, this dryness creates a perfect storm for tooth decay, enamel erosion, and even gum issues. Yeah.
That's anytime the hygienist next gives me attitude, which it's not attitude at all. It's just like very kindly, like trying to help me be better. Like,
she kindly helps me.
But actually, I'm kind of a marathon runner, and if you didn't know, it's quintessentially bad for my teeth.
She's like, all right, Huckleberry, get out of here.
Let me put more tools in your mouth. Can this guy just shut up?
Yeah, see you later. I'm gonna send you down on that raft or whatever you came here. How did you get to this appointment, old person from the past? So a study titled Effective Endurance Training on Dental Erosion, Tooth Decay, and Saliva, published in the Scandinavian Journal of Medicine and Science in Sports, examined 35 triathletes and 35 non-exercising controls. The researchers found that athletes had a significantly higher risk of dental erosion compared to the non-athletes. Boom.
I wonder if the non-athletes were mouth breathers or nose breathers.
Or if they were truly random. Hopefully they were truly random. But they observed that during intense exercise, saliva flow rates decreased and saliva pH increased, leading to an environment conducive to dental erosion and caries. Nasal breathing, and thus mouth tape, Zed, helps maintain saliva flow and pH balance. It's great, baby. And maybe it's an answer for the dental challenges faced by endurance athletes.
Hey, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Fix the teeth. What's the slogan? Fix the teeth. Fix the...
The body will follow.
Nailed it. Thanks for landing.
But before we wrap up, Dr. said, let's synthesize this episode. What are the GTH Big 3 bangers?
All right. Here are the GTH Big 3 bangers of mouth tape. All right. Number 1 banger. Planet of the Tapes. I'm in the best tape of my life. AKA choosing the right mouth tape. Could not choose.
Choosing the right pun.
All right. Well, all right. So this comes down to personal preference, of course, just some recommendations based on my personal experience, but would highly recommend using a skin-friendly hypoallergenic tape specifically designed for medical or skin use, such as there's micropore tape. I actually use this Kinesia.
What do you use? Say it.
Kinesiology. I'm gonna look it up right now because now I'm like
kinesiology. This is kinesiology.
There it is.
Kinesiology.
Is that what it is?
Kinesiology.
Yeah, whatever the tape.
This
that
is the
people
content
use.
that people are asking for.
God,
They know the tape though. They know the tape.
Yeah, so I actually use that, and I'll just cut it up into these little strips, and I find it's a little more cost effective, and it's a little stickier. Some of the micropore tape doesn't. I've very stick resistant lips, I guess, but
I wouldn't know.
also would recommend not having a Charlie Chaplin mustache for this because it does not stick to the hair very well, or if it does, it's painful. But yeah, so use
I would recommend not
tape.
having a Charlie Chaplin mustache in general. Just a word of life advice from the host of GTH.
All right. So along with that, well, not along with that, but in terms of choosing the right tape, also I would avoid using things like duct tape or other non-breathable tapes that can irritate the skin. You can get some sort of nasty skin reactions. But also, I mean, experiment and see what works best for you. We talked a little bit about how to tape your mouth. Actually, I'm going to save that because I'm going to talk about that next.
Cool.
All right. Number 2, tape me up before you go. How to strap up and shut up. I honestly don't even know the words to the real song, but
I don't know half the things you say, but I smile and I snap my fingers and I go, yeah, baby, let's go. He's cooking.
All right, so this is going to get into the nitty gritty of exactly how to do it in case it wasn't intuitive, but it's less intuitive than you would think. So
I think this is helpful.
All right. Well, thank you. Makes you feel a little better. All right. So would recommend cleaning and drying your lips and the surrounding skin to ensure that the tape kind of sticks properly. Some people will like even put on a little thin layer of lip balm to prevent irritation, but I find that totally negates any stickiness of the tape.
But immediately takes it off for me.
Totally. And I would avoid any kind of lotion or like lip gloss or whatever it is the case may be that you're putting on your lips that might affect the tape's adhesion.
Maybe you're eating like a really oily like leg of lamb right before bed or something.
Yeah, could be leg of lamb.
Leg of lamb. I don't know why that was my go-to.
One of the big mouth tape nemesis. But also, whatever you do, like don't kiss your partner before bed, because I find that partners' lips like have some sort of gloss substance on it that just totally negates all mouth tape.
Does your wife like you lip taping, by the way?
I think she thinks it's hilarious when to try to talk to me after I put the tape on. She really likes kind of giving me a scolding.
That's what I did the first time that I saw you. It's the first time I slept with you when you wore lip tape. So I'm glad that she and I have similar instincts.
And I'm just seeing red. There's nothing I can say. And I'm not about to take it off and start over.
They're like 40 cents or something.
Yeah, just puffing my mouth. Oh, great. Now I'm mouth puffing.
He said it's a threat.
All right. So that's the preparation. And then applying the tape correctly. I'd like cut a small piece of tape, just about, 1 inch in length. And then you can kind of place it vertically across the center of your lips. And that helps secure things, but not too tight. And this kind of allows for that small gap on either side, providing an emergency airway if needed.
I like that. Little puff hole exit.
Puff hole, 2 puff holes, 1 tape. All right. I would also, so this is kind of what you were getting at earlier, Gordy, about you can trial it during a nap. So if you're not trying to tape your mouth, if it seems a little daunting to tape your mouth for a full night's sleep, and if you're new to it, hey, just try it during a short nap. Get a little accustomed to the sensation. Ensure you don't experience discomfort or anxiety. So if you're...
Hold on 1 second. Sorry, continue.
All right. Didn't notice anything. All right. And then, just as you start raising the bar and increasing the tape usage, just kind of very basic, monitor your comfort, pay attention to how you're feeling during the night. If you have one of these like health watches, is that what they're called? Health watches?
Yeah, sure. I know what you mean.
Your Whoops, your Apple Watches, your Garmin's, your Fitbits. Mm-hmm. That is all of them. But you can kind of see how it's affecting your sleep quality. And then if you're having trouble breathing or kind of waking up in a panic, don't do it. And this is not advice. This is on you. And hey, maybe you'll feel like you're resting a little more peacefully. Your partner will be happy because you're snoring a little less. And you'll save on that water bill because you're only peeing one time per night.
Now that's healthy.
Wow, that
Actually,
is
there is
very
one more third point.
well, I just wanted, that was just so
very
healthy, I couldn't stop.
Resist.
Sorry, please continue.
No, the last one is just our COA. What did you say earlier? Cover
CYA,
yeah. But no, I mean, pretty basic. Like, use caution, use guidance under your like healthcare providers' recommendations. You could get skin irritation. I mean, obviously difficulty breathing if there are nasal blockages, and then you could even have induced anxiety or panic, especially if you have claustrophobia, which would be unpleasant, not worth it. But yeah, so while some individuals have reported improved sleep quality and overall health with mouth taping, it's not super universally accepted. There's not a ton of like clinical trials and sufficient clinical evidence, but yeah, potentially worth a shot.
I think I'm actually using it to help. I was thinking with my claustrophobia. I'm a little bit of a claustrophobic person. I think it's good. It will prepare me if I'm ever in a very claustrophobic situation. I think nose breathing, it gives you, when you breathe out of your mouth and you can feel any sort of distance or resistance pushing back, the nose points downwards, but the mouth, you can feel some resistance, some heat, and it can really make you feel trapped, I think. And, so yeah, I'm using it, mouth taping, as a way to prepare myself for a nightmare scenario that might end up becoming useful for me later.
Now that's healthy.
I had to set myself up after my false start. But thank you, Zed, for those big 3 bangers of mouth tape. But now it's time for us to take a little bit of a detour from the practical to the downright peculiar. It's time for What the Duck, where we explore some of the strangest and most questionable health trends in history. What the Duck? A perspective on quackery. This one's pretty nuts. Get ready for this, Seth. All right. Today we're talking about a story that takes breath work to a whole new, absurd level. Breatharianism. All right, so imagine this. You're in line at a trendy wellness seminar. The speaker, an impeccably serene guru wrapped in flowing white robes, steps out onto the stage and announces, "You don't need food. All the nourishment you need is already in the air you breathe." The crowd gasps. "Oh, right. Oh, so what a genius. Oh, let's never eat again." They all skip dinner. That's what they do. That is the world of breatharianism, a pseudoscientific movement that claims humans can survive entirely on air and sunlight. No beetroot smoothies, no Buffalo Wild Wings, just breathing your way to a full stomach, or at least pretending to. The roots of breatharianism can be traced back to ancient yogic traditions in India, where the concept of prana, or life force, emphasized the power of breath in spiritual and physical health. Yogis believed that with enough discipline, one could transcend the need for food entirely, but the modern version of breatharianism took these ideas and sprinted right past any semblance of discipline, landing squarely in the realm of quack. Enter Wiley Brooks, the self-proclaimed founder of the Breatharian Institute of America.
That's some nominative determinism. Of course, Wiley Brooks was going to be a quack.
Yeah, Wiley Brooks. Yeah, Wiley the Coyote Brooks. In the 1980s, Wiley Brooks made headlines claiming he hadn't eaten solid food in over a decade. He insisted, "Humans are naturally breatharians. You just need to let go of the toxins, both physical and mental, that keep you chained to food." He appeared on television glowing with vitality, saying, "Food is an addiction. It's no different than drugs or alcohol. We only eat because we're brainwashed into thinking we need to." But his credibility, Zed, took a hit when he was caught leaving a Santa Cruz 7-Eleven with a Slurpee, a hot dog, and Twinkies. Oh, my God. Yeah, when confronted, Wiley Brooks, he didn't deny it. Instead, he doubled down. He explained, "When surrounded by junk culture, eating junk food helps balance the vibrational frequencies of the body." Does that add up with what you learned in med school, Zed? Is that how balancing vibrational frequencies of junk food works?
Honestly, they don't teach you a lot about vibrational frequencies in med school.
It's more of
But
like
it
a
sounds-
music school.
Yeah, it sounds right.
Later, Wiley Brooks admitted that cheeseburgers and Coke from McDonald's were also part of his spiritual alignment process and practice. He claimed that they contained special vibrational frequencies that harmonized with higher planes of energy. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
So I just don't understand. I get once you're caught, then if you're not going to back down, you just got to keep going. But why didn't he just lead with why did he lead with the don't need food thing? Like, why wouldn't he just lead with the, like, food's okay as long as it's 7-Eleven and McDonald's and it has the right vibrational frequency criteria? Or just like not say anything.
I agree. Exactly. Because all right, this is straight from his Wikipedia. These are some of the claims that he's made. Okay. He said, all McDonald's are constructed on properties that are protected by the fifth dimensional high energy / spiritual portals. All right. I guess
Checks out.
Confirm or deny that. Two things he encouraged after getting busted, no doubt. And this is, I call this the presidential diet actually now. He encouraged the consumption of Diet Coke and the McDonald's double quarter pounder with cheese meal. And this is awesome. This is true. This is a quote of how this is. He elaborates. It is also acceptable to combine 2 quarter pounders with cheeseburgers to make 1 double quarter pounder if you can't get the double quarter pounder with cheese where you live.
Jeez, really moving the goalposts and getting pedantic with quarter pounders.
Yeah, first off, I think all McDonald's probably have those. He must have just went to some McDonald's that didn't freaked out, or I don't know.
Yeah.
He's so weird.
Him taking out the tablets and the chisel and just adding amendments.
He discouraged the consumption of water of any kind. Can't be drinking water. And the idea of separate but interconnected 5D and 3D worlds was part of his ideology. I don't know what 4D is, but he said only eat these special 5D foods. Breatharianism. I don't know what are we doing now, guys. And then meditate on a set of magical 5D words. So what? Yeah, and he had a rather exclusive audience in mind for his teachings. At one point, he listed a 5-figure fee for breatharian initiation on his website and said, this is a super insane website. Mr. Brooks has passed. But his domain name manager, if you are listening, please throw us an email at gordianz@gmail.com. I will edit. I'll do 30 minutes of free editing for you. Only 30 minutes. And I will not be a breatharian, so don't ask too much.
Don't even try.
Yeah, but that website, which is all different kinds of capitalizations and not and fonts and wild, he has a note that says only people with certain spiritual purity can join. And what kind of purity is that, you may ask, Ed? Well, just some more crazy ass. According to Brooks, applicants need to have a body weight divisible by 7. All right, why not? You got to live near a 7-Eleven. It's like, dude, he'll never live down the 7-Eleven getting caught at 7-Eleven. That's a part of his theology now. And ideally, not necessarily, but ideally, have a dog whose name contained the letter R. So I would love to know the story behind the R with dog names. I really do think he specifically had a crush on someone, and that he saw. He had a crush on someone he saw at his favorite place in the world, 7-Eleven, and he started walking her dog. He can't remember the dog's name. He's like, I know it started with an R. Definitely started with an R. But she was walking with her unattractive friend that clearly weighed something that didn't end and wasn't divisible by 7. So I had to really make sure she knows. What? It's just so weird and specific.
Very tough to try to think logically about someone who clearly did not reason their way into this, but yeah, insane.
Yeah, that's true. No, he wasn't a man of consistency. Would he even accept you? Do you fit it? Do you live near a 7-Eleven? Probably not.
Oh yeah, I looked this up. I'm within 0.4 miles of a 7-Eleven, and my dog's name does have an R in it. Okay. So,
and then what about divisible by 7?
Let me see.
You didn't say what unit of measurement, which is kind of weird always. If you
also,
that's such a big deal.
And are all weights divisible by 7? It's just a decimal. Does he need it to be a whole number?
Wow, you just demolished this guy's religion. Yeah, but he was not a man of consistency. Said he really wasn't. He's just a guy that sounds like when he was he just can't admit he's wrong. When he was 7, he told some kid at recess that he didn't need to eat food, and now he's been working his entire life to try to prove that kid wrong. And then they got caught at 7-Eleven, and he had to redo his whole theology to fit 7-Eleven in there. And it's just, what a guy. He's trying hard. But this person, I had another person for you. Jasmuheen, an Australian breatharian who claimed she hadn't eaten in decades. Probably had Vegemite and said, no, never again. No. I spent like 4 minutes listening to Australian people say no, and I still couldn't do it before this on YouTube. It's just, I can't do it, man. I can't do it. Food, Jasmine declared, is a crutch for people who haven't connected with their divine energy. Once you align yourself spiritually, you'll find everything you need in the air around you. All right. Okay, trust me. Okay. Her confidence, though, was unshakable, Zed. And she agreed, why, I don't know, to be observed by an independent TV crew in 1999. Oh, like, why would you do that? Like, do you think people trick themselves into believing it, or do they think that they have to like concede something like, sure, I'll do the show, and like hope I'll get out of it later? Like, I don't know what are they thinking.
I think it's definitely the latter. Like, it's just this continued slippery slope, and you're like, I just got to buy myself a little bit more time, and then something will happen, and I can spew some BS, and yeah, but I can't go back. Like, I'm in too deep. Right. People think I'm crazy.
Right. Well, good. She proved them wrong. Oh, wait, no, she didn't. Within days of a monitored fast, Jasmine started to show signs of dehydration. Her skin became dry, her speech slurred, and she became visibly weak. She lost, honestly, 14 pounds. A stone, I learned. I was like, what? A stone? She lost a stone. Ow. But her pulse apparently was going nuts. Everyone was worried about her kidneys. And the crew eventually suggested stopping the experiment for her safety, and she responded, I'm fine, but the problem is the air quality. It's the pollution. If we were in the pristine mountains, I'd be thriving right now. Like, all right, lady, you sound awful. She's probably like, I'm fine, but the problem is the air quality.
This never happens in the mountains where I don't live.
Yeah, exactly. After the experiment was called off, she elaborated, you see, urban energy disrupts my flow. I wasn't failing. I was being sabotaged by the city itself. Like, all right. So, yeah, bold claim, considering her sabotage came from living in a suburban home with air conditioning. So, yeah, if they just would have recorded me in a 7-Eleven or a Macca's, I'd be right full right now.
It's like, oh, you guys don't have the budget for a film crew in, like, Chamonix? Seriously, just trust me. This would be way different.
Yeah. Despite the very public unraveling of her claims, Jasmine maintained her followers. Skeptics, she said, are simply people who haven't yet opened their hearts to the universal truth of breath. I pity them. Like, thank you for your pity, Jasmine. She was born Ellen Grieve. Thank you, Jasmine. Your empathy knows no bounds. Her seminars, even after she got busted, continued to draw crowds. And like people that were attending it were like passing out and stuff during the workshop. It's been reported because, they need something other than air, probably. Or maybe it's just the urban environment. They weren't in the mountains. She should really hold her seminars.
She really should.
Right? but I can't. It's a numbers issue. As absurd as breatharianism is, it taps into something universal, our fascination with breath as the essence of life. Wiley Brooks and Jasmine may have taken it to laughable extremes, but there's a grain of truth buried in their nonsense. Breathing does matter a lot, so we'll give you that. Like, I guess sure, you guys nailed it. As we've discussed today, modern science does show that nasal breathing, for example, is critical for our health. As we know, it improves oxygen exchange, boosts nitric oxide production, and even enhances athletic performance. And meanwhile, we've learned that chronic mouth breathing can wreak havoc, leading to everything from sleep apnea to poor dental health. So maybe the breatharians had one thing sort of right. Breath is life. But it's not a substitute for food. So if you're tempted to live on air alone, just remember old Wiley Brooks and his Slurpee leaving 7-Eleven, or Jasmine's pollution sabotage. And you'll live longer and happier if you stick to breathing through your nose while also pairing it with something a little more substantial like dinner.
I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think if they deserve any props for the commitment, but I don't think so, actually.
No, not at all. They're just like, boom, never been better. Proved my point. Got them. I showed them. For sure.
Man.
But Zed, you know what that music means? It is time for our fast fire questions.
Gordy and Zed's Fast Fire Questions.
That's right. And as always, we start with our first question, which is, would you rather?
Would you rather?
Zed, Would you rather live with a permanent filter on your voice that sounds like you've been ingesting helium, like you've been breathing helium? So you have helium voice. Or would you only be able to whisper? And you're like whispering. And if you talk a little bit louder than a whisper, you get like shocked, like it's like an electric collar kind of deal.
Interesting. Ooh, because I can see there being important times where you need to be able to speak above a whisper, like help, help, or look out.
What's that guy saying?
But the helium would be so annoying. And honestly, if I had the helium thing, I'd be whispering mostly anyways, and then there'd be like a helium whisper. Oof. All right, I think I have to go helium. Oof. All right, yeah, I think I have to go helium just on the survival, from the survival standpoint, or in case there's an emergency. But
that's
yikes.
a tough one. That's a tough one. I'm gonna go helium as well. Helium as well. I think you just got to find someone that loves you and just like be ready not to have a lot of friends. All right,
perfect.
But it is time for our next question, which is: which would you rather spend time with in a giant terrarium?
Which would you rather spend time with in a giant terrarium?
Which would you rather spend time with in a giant terrarium? Someone that only whispered, or someone that had helium voice?
Oh, yes. This is a no-brainer. Someone who whispered, and I'm out control of the little shock thing. I'm just relaxed, and they're whispering a little too loud. Careful. Yeah. Because you could still
like that.
Yeah, it wouldn't be annoying. You could still talk with them, but it would just be kind of nice and calm, a little like ASMR. You'd be like, oh, do you mind reading to me while I go to sleep? And they just
I think that I would actually hear the helium voice. I think the whispering
Really?
would be like, I do not want to have to keep putting my face so close to your face every time. Like, can you just say it? Like,
interesting.
God, like you're making me focus on you all the time. Like, at least
it's not all about you.
The helium elf was like just funny. I don't know.
I suppose you would get used to the helium thing as a listener pretty quickly, and it would be a little more practical.
That's true.
All right.
That's
Well,
true.
I've already committed, so
you have the element of shock, but now it's my turn to shock you because it is the final fast fire question. The one that's not a question, it is STD.
Shock the doc.
So did you know that in the 18th century, doctors used tobacco smoke enemas to revive drowning victims? Indeed, Zed. For real. They believe that blowing smoke up someone's rectum could stimulate respiration and warmth. Seriously. Fun fact, it was so common, Zed, that in England, like riverside locations often had kits with bellows and pipes specifically for that purpose. Yeah, I know. And this is like my favorite part about this is that the decline of this practice and the recognition of its toxicity led to the figure of speech blowing smoke up one's ass, which essentially means like lying to them to flatter them. So that's the root of that idiom.
That is way stranger than fiction, but
right,
man, really kind of if you think about it, the ultimate experience if you're this kinky English person with low self-esteem that lives in a riverside location.
Right, exactly.
Just putting on your assless britches and batting your eyelashes at the lifeguard. Like, oh no, I'm afraid I must insist on teaching myself to swim.
Oh yeah, they're like, no, that guy can't swim. No, it's like, oops, I can't swim.
Oh yeah, here I go.
Lube up the bellows or the pipes or whatever. People don't use bellows.
Light the
a lot
tobacco.
Anymore.
No, less bellows than you think.
Less bellows. Everyone, thank you so much for listening to Going Through Health with Gordy and Zed. Listen each week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. New episodes available early Monday morning. When we come back next time, we might have a little bit of a new format. We have so much information and we're so passionate about it that we want to kind of maybe figure out a way to spread it out so we don't feel like we're missing out. So we can give you all the info that we want to share. Follow us, rate and review us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Please give us 5 stars, or whatever the most is, at goingthroughhealth.podcast on Instagram. Give us a follow. Any questions, concerns, coupons, spam mail, email us at gordyandz@gmail.com. Zed, thank you so much for talking with me today, man.
Hey, this is Zed. This podcast is intended solely for general informational purposes and does not represent the provision of medical advice or the practice of any professional healthcare services. No clinician-patient relationship is formed. Nice try. And the use of the information provided or materials linked is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not meant to replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should seek medical advice for any health issues they may have and should consult their healthcare providers for any such concerns.